all sorts of public domain characters pop up. I mean, this, this is interesting. It's a shame that we can't use stuff more along the lines of 25 years. I was talking to someone too about how absurd some of the country laws are. How Nat King Cole is available here in Canada, but he's not in America for whatever bizarre reason, even though he's an American asset. Um, do you bemoan not only the fact that the absurd links of public domain, but also the the way that fair use is used? Because a lot of that is just to stop plagiarists. But why should fair use be so curtailed? Why can't you use stuff of the time even, as long as you're not plagiarizing it?
And this is the thing too, is all of these things I fully acknowledge where I get them from, whether it's an obscure Oz book or whatnot. I fully acknowledge it. I'm using it in a totally different way. Uh, I use the characters. Sometimes I have the characters going into actual scenes from the books. Other times they're doing other stuff, like having Bit von Rheingold lusting over Anne of Green Gables and encouraging Jim Hawkins from Treasure Island and Tom Sawyer to see which of them is going to bang the little girl. I mean, that's sick. But this is Bit the pornographer, and then so I mean, and that's one of the reasons I do that. And the best example of that comes in chapter 54, where I have Bit and oldest Bit, I think it is, or older Bit. There are three main Bit von Reingolds. There are dozens of Bits that show up, but there's Bit, there's older Bit, and then who basically Bit is twinned. It's Bit and older Bit for maybe about the first 25% of that chapter, and then oldest Bit comes in. And there's a scene where, absurdly, we meet the playwright Clifford Odets. And the character of Clifford Odets says, "Go ahead, Bit, you can use my work," but they can't. And so Clifford Odets has to wonder why he can't give permission for Bit and oldest Bit to go into his work. And so that's my highlighting the absurdity of this, is that I can write. I'm free to use the real person of Clifford Odets, who's dead, and I can use him as a character, but I couldn't use his words. It's absurd. And I did this too because in the Vincetti Brothers, I quote from a lot of popular songs, and a lot of these songwriting things. Just a year or two ago, or less than a year ago, the song "Happy Birthday," which was written in like 1895 or something, finally came into public domain because someone finally stood up against the company that claimed the rights. Some documentary filmmaker that was making a documentary about the song, and said, "Fuck you." You can't have a 120-year-old song and claim that you have the rights to it. And the people, and this is like with YouTube, all these interviews that I upload to YouTube. It's like, why can't I use public domain films? Some company in Germany screwed me for like 6 months a year or so ago, that I had to start a second YouTube channel. And it's fucking bullshit. Google is one of the richest companies in the world. They could easily post and say, if something is acknowledged as a public domain work, you, the person claiming to have the right for it, you have the burden of proof. I don't have to prove that something's in the public domain if it's acknowledged while in the public domain. You have to show, if you're claiming that thing, that you have the rights to it. And this book is again the best argument for that, because it's ridiculous, as I said. And the best example is, I can use Clifford Odets, the real life person, as a character, but I can't use his words. And I can't even have my character authorize the use of his words.
But we should also make a point too. I wanted to distinguish fair use from actual public domain. We should be able to use all works, though, in work. That is my take. Is that as long as it's not plagiarism, everything should be up for use.
Yeah, I should be able to use if I wanted to quote fully "Stairway to Heaven" and have it playing in the background. If I'm using, and obviously in a written work, because "Stairway to Heaven," the lyrics are only half of the actual artistic product. "Stairway to Heaven" is the lyrics and the music to go along with it. Now, I could see, if I have some interactive book, say, that you could click on a link and hear it, that saying you can't use the actual sung song, the actual Led Zeppelin recording, but I should be able to use the lyrics, especially if I'm using them in a context where, let's say, I am contrasting it with a murder or something, and use it as background, because I'm not using the actual product. I'm using just an element of that product.
And it seems like the world has gotten ever more greedy with it too. I
Don't
recall
start
a
me on
story.
greed.
I recall a story though where I think his name is Phil Spector, and he had that song that plays at the beginning of Mean Streets,
Yeah.
and he was alerted to it by one of his little stooges who came over and said that Martin Scorsese has used this the song without getting permission for it, and he said, "Well, let me talk to him," and they began talking about it, and all he wanted then was just for some you know if Martin Scorsese got big, which eventually he did, to get some income from that. But he allowed him to use it, this up and coming filmmaker, just as a service to the art. Now, I have some problems with that particular individual. I don't think that he has much merit as a person or a producer, but at least there's more service to art. Whereas the mentality now seems to be get as much as you want. YouTube is a good example in that there is just absurd stuff. I saw something, I think you linked to it, where there was this fellow who he's built up a YouTube channel. He has a few thousand subscribers, and he's being sued. And the amount they're suing for him is absurd. It's like $250,000. So it would destroy his entire life, just for using something in a review.
And he's doing it in a critical manner. I mean, he's changing the nature of the thing. He's not even making, for example, a little film that's an artistic work. It's clearly he's adding criticism, and even if his criticism is all piece of shit, that doesn't matter if it's bad criticism. He's using it as a critical work. I'll give you two examples here. Just this morning, every day I've been sending out to 5 or 6 actors a day for the last couple of weeks for these interviews. I've done 6 actor interviews. I've got 2 or 3 people who are ready to do it in the next month, and I sent to some other ones. The guy who played Greg Brady on the Brady Bunch, I sent to him a couple of days ago, last Friday. I followed up this morning. I get a thing from his manager asking, "Will there be remuneration for this interview? How much?" And I said, "No, it's a small YouTube channel." It's like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, this shows how out of touch these people are, that anyone would pay for Greg Brady. And this is nothing against the guy Barry Williams, the actor. He's probably a nice guy, and his agent is probably just an idiot. But this interview that I could do could show that this guy who played Greg Brady might have a brain and might be more than just a washed-up child actor that most people would think that he is. But this guy, this agent, is so focused on, oh, do I have to make some money or whatnot, that I'm probably not going to do that interview. I'll probably have, when I check again, I'll probably have an email from this guy saying thanks but no thanks. And then Jessica was mentioning the other day about the poet Ezra Pound, and as wacky and fucked up as Ezra Pound was, as stupid with his fascistic shit, Ezra Pound helped other artists. He went out of his way to promote other good poets or people who had talent, like the Cranes and the Elliots and Frost and other people, to promote their work. Other than myself, I know of no other person who goes out of his way to try to promote art and get nothing from it. I'm about as, and I'm not saying this to make myself some saint, but I'm about as artistically altruistic as one human being could be. And yet the people who have actual power don't have it. I was talking with Alice Sherman about this a few weeks ago, and he was saying how, like, that he thinks that maybe some young kid out there uh, may be a fan, might eventually start an e-press or something. But why does it have to be that way? Why is everything about fucking money?